New Hampshire has a lightly regulated tenant screening environment, with few state-level restrictions beyond the federal baseline. The state's overall philosophy leans libertarian. New Hampshire's motto is "Live free or die," and that ethos extends to the landlord-tenant relationship. The governing framework includes New Hampshire's landlord-tenant statutes, found in New Hampshire Revised Statutes Chapter 540 and Chapter 540A, along with FCRA and the New Hampshire Law Against Discrimination. Let's start with application fees. New Hampshire does not cap application fees. There is no state statute limiting what a landlord can charge for tenant screening. New Hampshire's landlord-tenant statutes do not address application fee amounts, procedures, or refund requirements. Landlords can charge whatever they determine is reasonable. Most New Hampshire landlords charge between $25 and $50 per applicant. New Hampshire's rental market is tight relative to its size, particularly in the southern tier communities near the Massachusetts border, and applicants are generally accustomed to paying screening fees. Keeping fees proportionate to actual costs is good practice, but there's no legal restriction. Criminal history screening in New Hampshire is largely unrestricted at the state level. New Hampshire does not have a comprehensive ban-the-box or fair chance housing law. There are no state-level restrictions preventing landlords from asking about criminal history on the initial application. Landlords can inquire about arrests and convictions, can use criminal history in screening decisions, and are not subject to state-mandated look-back period limits or individualized assessment requirements. No New Hampshire municipality has enacted a local criminal history screening restriction for housing. Manchester, Nashua, Concord, Portsmouth, and every other New Hampshire community operate under the same unrestricted framework. New Hampshire has expanded its annulment provisions, which function similarly to expungement in other states in recent years. When a criminal record is annulled under New Hampshire law, it is treated as if the arrest, charge, or conviction never occurred. Landlords cannot consider annulled records in screening decisions. Screening providers should be filtering annulled records, but landlords should verify their provider's compliance with New Hampshire's annulment statutes. New Hampshire decriminalized marijuana possession for small amounts, and landlords should be thoughtful about using minor marijuana records as a basis for denial. While New Hampshire has not legalized recreational marijuana the way neighboring Massachusetts, Vermont, and Maine have, the decriminalization reflects a shift in how the state views minor possession, and using these records to deny housing may not withstand scrutiny if challenged. HUD's 2016 guidance on criminal history and disparate impact applies in New Hampshire. While the state's demographics are less diverse than many states, New Hampshire has one of the lowest minority populations in the country. The federal framework still governs. Blanket criminal history policies that cannot be justified by a legitimate business necessity create risk regardless of the local demographic composition. Documenting your criteria and applying them consistently is always the smart approach. Source of income protection does not exist at the state level in New Hampshire. Landlords are not prohibited from considering the source of an applicant's income when making screening decisions. Landlords can legally decline applicants who pay with housing choice vouchers, Social Security, disability payments, or other government assistance. No New Hampshire municipality has enacted a local source of income protection ordinance. Participation in voucher programs is entirely voluntary. For credit reports, New Hampshire follows standard FCRA requirements, permissible purpose, written consent, and adverse action notice procedures. New Hampshire does not impose additional state-level requirements for credit report access, adverse action content, or notification timelines beyond FCRA. New Hampshire's fair housing protections under the New Hampshire Law Against Discrimination, found in RSA Chapter 354A, are broader than the federal baseline. Protected categories include race, color, religion, national origin, sex, sexual orientation, disability, familial status, marital status, and age. The inclusion of sexual orientation, marital status, and age goes beyond the Federal Fair Housing Act. The sexual orientation protection means landlords cannot make screening decisions based on an applicant's sexual orientation. The marital status protection means landlords cannot discriminate based on whether an applicant is single, married, divorced, or in a civil union. New Hampshire legalized same-sex marriage and recognizes civil unions, and the state's fair housing law fully protects these relationships. The age protection means landlords cannot use age as a screening criterion, though legitimate criteria like income verification and credit history that may correlate with age are permissible. The New Hampshire Commission for Human Rights investigates fair housing complaints and has enforcement authority including ordering damages, injunctive relief, and civil penalties. While New Hampshire's enforcement environment is less aggressive than states like New Jersey or New York, the Commission does actively investigate complaints and take enforcement action. New Hampshire has a specific provision regarding security deposits that affects the screening context. Under RSA 540-A6, the security deposit is limited to 1 month's rent or $100, whichever is greater. This is one of the lowest deposit caps in the country. In markets where monthly rents are substantial, landlords are still limited to 1 month. Additionally, a landlord who holds a security deposit for a tenant in occupancy for more than 1 year must pay interest on the deposit. The extremely low deposit cap makes thorough screening critical in New Hampshire. With only 1 month's rent as your financial cushion, the cost of accepting a problem tenant who damages the property or stops paying rent far exceeds what the deposit will cover. Every dollar spent on comprehensive screening is an investment in avoiding losses that the deposit won't cover. From a practical standpoint, New Hampshire's rental market is shaped by 2 dominant factors: its proximity to Massachusetts and its limited housing supply. Southern New Hampshire, including Nashua, Manchester, Salem, Derry, Londonderry, and Hudson, functions essentially as an extension of the greater Boston rental market. Thousands of residents live in southern New Hampshire and commute to Massachusetts for work, attracted by New Hampshire's lack of state income tax and sales tax. This commuter demand has driven rents significantly higher in the southern tier, and the market is tight with limited vacancy. Manchester, the state's largest city, has a diverse rental market driven by healthcare, including Catholic Medical Center and Elliott Hospital, technology, financial services, manufacturing, and its role as a regional commercial center. Manchester's rental market has tightened as population growth has outpaced housing construction. The applicant pool is diverse and includes professionals, healthcare workers, students. Southern New Hampshire University has a significant presence, and lower-income residents. Nashua, the state's second-largest city, has an even tighter market driven by its proximity to the Massachusetts border and its own strong employment base in technology and defense. BAE Systems has a major presence. Nashua regularly ranks among the most desirable small cities in the country, and rental demand is consistently strong. Concord, the state capital, has a moderate market driven by state government, healthcare, including Concord Hospital, and legal and professional services. The market is smaller and more stable than southern New Hampshire. Portsmouth and the Seacoast region have one of the tightest and most expensive rental markets in New Hampshire. Portsmouth's historic downtown, restaurant scene, and quality of life have made it extremely desirable. The Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, technically located in Kittery, Maine, but serving the Seacoast region, generates significant demand from military and civilian defense workers. BAH rates for the Portsmouth area are competitive and influence rental pricing. The Seacoast market has very limited supply and strong demand, making it one of the more challenging markets in New England for tenants seeking affordable housing. The Lakes region, including Laconia, Meredith, and Wolfboro, has a market influenced by tourism, second homeowners, and seasonal workers. Lake Winnipesaukee and the surrounding area attract seasonal visitors and workers, creating temporary housing demand during the summer months. The Upper Valley, including Hanover and Lebanon, has a market dominated by Dartmouth College and the Dartmouth-Hitchcock Medical Center. Hanover's rental market is extremely tight and expensive relative to its size. Screening in the Upper Valley involves a mix of college students, medical professionals, and academic researchers. Student applicants from Dartmouth generally come from affluent backgrounds, but standard screening procedures, including cosigner policies, should still be applied consistently. Keene, home to Keene State College, Plymouth, home to Plymouth State University, and other college communities have student-influenced markets with seasonal turnover. The North Country, including Berlin, Gorham, Littleton, and Colebrook, has the softest rental markets in the state. These communities have experienced population decline and economic challenges, and the rental market reflects those conditions. Landlords in the North Country face the challenge of finding qualified tenants in a shrinking applicant pool. Setting realistic screening standards that balance thoroughness with the practical limitations of a small market is essential. One best practice for New Hampshire landlords, given the state's extremely low security deposit cap of 1 month's rent, treat screening as your primary financial protection. You cannot rely on a large deposit to cover losses from a problem tenant. Invest in comprehensive screening that includes credit, criminal, eviction history, and rental reference verification. The $30 to $50 you spend on screening is trivial compared to the financial exposure of accepting a tenant whose problems the 1-month deposit won't cover. Another best practice, for landlords in southern New Hampshire who draw applicants from the Massachusetts market, understand that Massachusetts has significantly more restrictive screening requirements than New Hampshire, including source of income protections and broader fair housing categories. Applicants relocating from Massachusetts may have expectations about the screening process that differ from New Hampshire's requirements. While you're not bound by Massachusetts law for New Hampshire properties, being aware of these expectations helps you manage the application process professionally. A third best practice, given New Hampshire's protected categories including sexual orientation, marital status, and age, review your application form to ensure it doesn't request information about these characteristics unless directly relevant to a legitimate screening criterion. Questions about whether an applicant is married, their age, or their personal relationships should be avoided unless they relate to determining the number of occupants or other legitimate housing factors. Train anyone who interacts with applicants on New Hampshire's protected categories. New Hampshire requires landlords to return the security deposit within 30 days of the tenant vacating. The landlord must provide an itemized list of any deductions. If the landlord fails to return the deposit or provide an itemization within 30 days, the landlord may be liable for the full deposit amount plus damages. The strict return timeline and limited deposit amount reinforce the importance of thorough screening and careful move-in documentation. For the complete guide to New Hampshire tenant screening laws, visit tenantscreeningbackgroundcheck.com. Subscribe to our channel for every state in our tenant screening law series.